In Tokyo, children walked to school under cherry blossom trees. In Cairo, engineers worked on the newest space elevator. In Buenos Aires, an old woman sat in her garden and watched birds fly across the morning sky. 12 billion people called Earth their home. They laughed. They loved. They made plans for tomorrow. Humanity had just learned to walk among the stars. Colony ships moved slowly toward distant planets, carrying brave souls who wanted to build new worlds. It was not fast. It was not easy. But it was a beginning. Humans looked up at the night sky and saw not darkness, but possibility. They did not know that something was watching them. The Verthan Dominion had ruled this part of the galaxy for over 100,000 years. They were not one species, but 17, bound together under a single terrible law. The strong survived. The weak were removed. And young species just learning to reach for the stars, were considered the most dangerous weeds of all. The Dominion had watched humanity for 2 centuries. They saw the colony ships. They saw the growing population. They saw a species that bred fast, dreamed big, and never seemed to stop pushing forward. The Verthan High Council met in their great chamber and made their decision in less than 1 hour. Humanity would be erased. They did not send a warning. They did not offer surrender. They did not even announce their presence. On a quiet Tuesday morning, when the sun was rising over the Pacific Ocean, the sky above Earth turned dark with ships. The Dominion fleet numbered over 10,000 vessels. The largest of them, a ship called the Eternal Judgment, was bigger than a mountain. It hung above the planet like a god of death, blocking out the sun. Earth's defenses were nothing. Humanity had a few orbital stations, some missile platforms, a handful of military ships designed for patrol, not war. They fired everything they had. Missiles exploded against Dominion shields like raindrops against stone. Not a single alien ship was scratched. Then the bombardment began. The first city to die was Shanghai. A beam of white light fell from the Eternal Judgment and touched the city for exactly 3 seconds. When the light faded, there was nothing left but a crater filled with melted glass. 18 million people gone in a heartbeat. The Dominion did not stop. New York, London, Mumbai, Moscow, Sydney. One by one, the great cities of Earth vanished under the white light. The oceans began to boil. Mountains cracked and crumbled. The very air caught fire. Across the planet, people ran. They screamed. They held their children and prayed to gods who did not answer. Some tried to fight, grabbing whatever weapons they could find, shooting at the sky in desperate rage. It made no difference. The Dominion was not fighting a war. They were cleaning a house. On the bridge of the Eternal Judgment, the Verthan commander watched the destruction with cold yellow eyes. His name was Vorith Keen, and he had performed cleansings before. This was his 43rd. He felt nothing as countenance burned below him. Broadcast the feed, he ordered. Let the galaxy see what happens to weeds. Across 1,000 worlds, aliens watched Earth die. Some cheered. Some stayed silent. None tried to help. In the Dominion, you did not question the High Council. You did not show sympathy for the condemned. But in the chaos, something unexpected happened. Far from Earth, on the edge of the solar system, 17 colony ships had been preparing for long journeys to distant stars. They were slow ships, old ships, filled with farmers and scientists and families looking for new beginnings. When the attack began, they received the emergency broadcasts. They saw their home burning. Captain Elena Vasquez commanded the largest ship, the New Horizon. She was 42 years old, a former military pilot, and she had family in Madrid. She watched Madrid disappear under white fire while standing on her bridge, her hands shaking, her heart breaking. "Captain," her navigator said, his voice barely a whisper. "What do we do?" Elena did not answer for a long moment. Tears ran down her face. She thought of her mother, her sisters, her nephew, who had just turned 5. All burning. Then she wiped her eyes and stood straight. "All ships," she said into the fleet communication channel. "This is Captain Vasquez. Earth is gone. We cannot save them, but we can survive. We can carry what's left of humanity into the dark, set course for the outer rim. Maximum speed. Do not stop for anything. Do not look back. The 17 ships turned away from the sun that had warmed humanity for millions of years. Their engines burned hot and desperate. Behind them, Earth had become a ball of fire and smoke. The Dominion detected the fleeing ships. A junior officer reported them to Commander Voreth Keen. 17 small vessels escaping the system, the officer said. Shall we pursue? Voreth Keen looked at the display. 17 tiny ships. Perhaps 2 million humans in total. Nothing. Less than nothing. They are running into empty space. They have nowhere to go. Let them die slowly in the dark. It is a fitting end for vermin. He turned back to watch Earth's final moments. The planet was breaking apart now, its core exposed to the cold of space. Soon there would be nothing left but rocks and dust. Log this cleansing as complete, Voreth Keen commanded. Species 4071, known as humanity, is now extinct. The Dominion fleet stayed for 3 more hours, making sure nothing survived. Then they turned and flew away, already forgetting the small blue world they had murdered. In the great history of the Dominion, Earth would be remembered as nothing more than a number. A minor task completed. But deep in the darkness of space, 17 ships flew on. Inside them, 2 million humans huddled together. They wept for everyone they had lost. They held on to each other like survivors of a flood. Children asked where their grandparents were. Parents had no answers. On the new horizon, Captain Alina Vasquez gathered her people in the main hall. They looked at her with empty eyes, broken hearts, and no hope. I know, she said, her voice rough with grief. I know. We have lost everything. Our home, our families, our world. She paused and took a deep breath. But we are still here. 2 million of us, still breathing, still alive. And as long as we live, humanity lives. As long as we remember, Earth lives. Looked at the faces before her. Young and old. Strong and weak. All of them refugees now. All of them the last of their kind. I think they killed us today, Alina said. They logged our extinction and moved on. But they made a mistake. They let some of us escape. And we will not forget what they did. Not in 100 years. Not in 1,000. Not ever we will survive. We will grow strong. And one day, no matter how long it takes, we will return, as I swear to you. This I swear to Earth. This I swear to every soul who burned today. Humanity is not extinct. Humanity is just beginning. The survivors did not cheer. They had no strength for cheering. But something changed in their eyes. A small spark, tiny and fragile, but real hope, and with that hope burning in their hearts. The 17 ships flew deeper into the endless night, carrying the last children of Earth toward an uncertain future. Behind them, the ashes of their world grew cold and dark, but their story was not over. It was only beginning. The survivors called their journey the Long Dark. For the first 100 years, survival was everything. The 17 ships flew through empty space, far from any star, far from any hope of rescue. Food was limited. Water was recycled until it tasted like metal. Every day was a struggle against despair. Captain Alina Vasquez died in the 32nd year, her body worn out by stress and grief. But before she passed, she gathered the leaders of all 17 ships one final time. Remember 3 things, she told them, her voice weak but steady. Teach them to your children. Teach them to your children's children. Never let them forget. First, where we came from. Earth, a beautiful blue world that loved us and raised us. Second, what was taken from us. Our home, our families, our right to exist. Third, what we will become. Strong, patient, ready. One day we will return. Promise me, they promised. And when Alina closed her eyes for the last time, her words became law. Every child born in the darkness learned the 3 truths before they learned anything else. Every generation carried the memory forward like a sacred flame. The first 1,000 years were the hardest. People went mad from living in metal boxes with no sun, no wind, no rain. There were riots. There were suicides. 3 times, civil wars almost destroyed what remained of humanity. Food ran out on 4 ships, and people had to make terrible choices to survive. But somehow, humanity held on. The ship's scientists found ways to grow food in tiny spaces. Engineers built better recycling systems. Doctors learned to treat diseases of the mind, to help people cope with endless darkness. Slowly, painfully, the survivors adapted. By the year 3000, the fleet found its first refuge, a rogue planet, frozen and dark, drifting alone between galaxies. It had no sun, no warmth, nothing but ice and stone. But it was solid ground. They named it Haven. The survivors built their first city beneath the ice. Warmed by reactors and geothermal vents, children born on Haven were the first humans in 700 years to walk on soil. Even if that soil was frozen and buried under kilometers of ice, they called it a miracle. More rogue planets were found. More cities were built. Humanity spread through the spaces between galaxies, places so empty that no Dominion ship would ever search. They lived in darkness, but they survived, and they never stopped improving. The first great change came in the year 4500, when human scientists cracked the code of genetic engineering. They redesigned the human body for survival. People became stronger, healthier, and longer lived. A human who once lived 80 years could now live 300. The second change came 1,000 years later. Neural networks allowed human minds to connect across vast distances. Thoughts could travel faster than light. A person on one frozen world could share ideas instantly with someone on another. Humanity became not just a species, but a collective. Trillions of minds working together as one. The third change came slowly, over many millennia. Humans merged with their technology, not completely, not losing their souls, but enhancing themselves, becoming something new. They could survive in vacuum. They could see radiation. They could think faster than any computer. By the year 20,000, humanity was no longer what the Dominion had tried to destroy. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before, and still they remembered. Every city had a memorial of Earth. Every child learned the names of the cities that burned. Every generation added to the great record of the dead. 12 billion names carved in stone and light preserved forever. The hatred never faded. But it changed. It became cold and patient, like ice forming over thousands of years. Humanity did not scream for revenge. They planned for it. Scientists worked for centuries on weapons the Dominion could not imagine. Engineers built ships that could fold space, appearing anywhere in the galaxy in the blink of an eye. Soldiers trained in combat techniques perfected over 40,000 years. Everything humanity learned, everything they invented was aimed at one goal. One day, they would go back. By the year 45,000, humanity had spread across 17 dwarf galaxies. Hidden colonies numbered in the millions. The total human population had grown from 2 million to over 50 trillion. They had become an empire, but an empire of shadows, invisible to the rest of the universe. And then the Council of Remembrance met for its most important vote. The council was made of one representative from each of the original 17 ships' bloodlines. They gathered on Haven, in the same cavern where the first city had been built. Now expanded into a vast chamber of crystal and light. At the center stood a woman named Sarah Vance. She was 847 years old, young by modern human standards. Her family line traced back to the New Horizon, to Captain Elena Vasquez herself. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. 47,000 years, she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. That is how long we have waited. That is how long we have prepared. The question before us is simple. She looked at each council member in turn. Is it time? The council members did not need long to decide. They had been ready for generations. The only question was when. One by one, they cast their votes. One by one, the lights turned green. Unanimous. Then let it be recorded, Sira said. On the 47,000th anniversary of Earth's destruction, humanity voted to return home. She paused, and something ancient and fierce burned in her eyes. We will not go as refugees. We will not go as victims. We will go as judges. We will show the Dominion what they created when they burned our world and left us in the darkness. They thought extinction was simple. They thought we would die in the void. They were wrong. We did not die. We evolved, grew. We became something they cannot defeat. And now we will remind them why they should have finished what they started. The chamber erupted in a sound that had not been heard in 47,000 years. Human voices raised in something between a war cry and a prayer. 50 trillion people, connected through neural networks across 17 galaxies, felt it at the same moment. The waiting was over. Across the hidden empire, ships began to move. Fleets that had been built in secret for millennia emerged from hidden bases. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives received their orders. Scientists activated weapons that bent the laws of physics. Humanity was going home in her private chamber. Sira Vance looked at a small container on her desk. Inside was a handful of soil, brown and ordinary. Earth soil, preserved for 47,000 years. Passed down through her family since the day of the burning, she touched the container gently. We kept our promise, Captain Vasquez, she whispered. We remembered. We survived. We grew strong, and now we return. She closed her eyes and thought of Earth, the blue oceans, the green forests, the billions of people who had laughed and loved and dreamed, all gone, all burned, all waiting for justice. We're coming home, Sira said to the ghosts of the dead, and we're bringing the storm with us. Outside her window, the first human warships began their journey toward the Milky Way. The long dark was over. The reckoning had begun. The Verithan Dominion had grown fat and lazy over 47,000 years. There, empires stretched across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. They controlled over 2,000 worlds, ruled over hundreds of subject species, and commanded fleets that could darken the sky of any planet. No one challenged them. No one dared. The cleansing of Earth was ancient history, forgotten by all but the oldest archives. The Verithan who had ordered the attack were long dead. Their descendants ruled now, arrogant and confident. Believing their power would last forever, they were wrong. The first sign came at the edge of Dominion space. Near a small outpost called Station Vrel, a sensor officer noticed something strange on his display. Ships appearing from nowhere, then vanishing before he could get a clear reading. Probably a glitch, his commander said. Run a diagnostic. But it was not a glitch. Over the next 3 weeks, 12 scout ships sent to investigate disappeared without a trace. No distress signals. No wreckage. Just silence. The Dominion High Council received reports, but did not worry. They had dealt with pirates before. They sent a small fleet of 50 warships to patrol the area. The fleet vanished in a single night. Now the council began to pay attention. What could destroy 50 ships without a single message? Demanded High Counselor Vrethkon, leader of the Verithan. Who has this power? No one had answers. Intelligence agencies searched their databases. Diplomats contacted neighboring empires. Spies were sent in every direction. Nothing. No one knew anything. Then the message arrived. It came on every frequency the Dominion used. Military channels, civilian broadcasts, emergency systems. Every screen in the Empire flickered and changed. Every speaker crackled with static, and then a sound began to play. It was old. The audio quality was poor, degraded by unimaginable time. But the words were clear enough. Screaming, explosions, a woman crying out for her children, a man praying in a language the Dominion did not recognize, and behind it all, the sound of a world dying. The broadcast lasted 11 minutes. 11 minutes of horror from 47,000 years ago? The final moments of Earth recorded and preserved through all the long millennia. When it ended, a new voice spoke. Cold, cold, calm, patient. You called us weeds. You burned our cradle and declared us extinct. You celebrated our deaths across 1,000 worlds. We heard you. We watched. We waited. We remembered for 47,000 years. We remembered, now we have returned. High Counselor Vreth Khan stared at the screen in his private chamber, his yellow eyes wide with something he had not felt in centuries. Fear. Possible, he whispered. The humans are dead. They have been dead for ages. But the message continued. You thought extinction was simple? You thought fire was enough? You were wrong. We are humanity. We are the children of Earth, and we have come to collect what is owed. The broadcast ended. Across the Dominion, panic spread like wildfire. The humans? The species they had erased almost 50,000 years ago. Alive? Impossible. It had to be a trick, a hoax, some enemy playing games. But then the human ships appeared. They emerged from fold space at the heart of the Dominion's most secure military sector. Not hundreds of ships. Not thousands. Millions. Vessels of designs no Dominion scientists could understand, using technology that should not exist. They filled the space between stars like a metal sea. The Dominion fleet commanders ordered their ships to attack. Weapons fired. Missiles launched. Energy beams sliced through space. None of it mattered. Human shields absorbed everything the Dominion threw at them. Human weapons struck back with terrible precision. Dominion ships exploded by the hundreds, then by the thousands. In 4 hours, the greatest military force the Dominion had ever assembled was reduced to floating debris. The humans did not lose a single ship. High Counselor Vreth Khan requested a meeting. He was terrified, but he was also a politician. Perhaps he could negotiate. Perhaps he could offer tribute territory. Anything to stop this nightmare. The humans agreed to meet. Sierra Vance arrived at the Dominion capital in a small shuttle, accompanied by only 2 guards. She walked through halls built to intimidate lesser species, past statues of Vorathon conquerors, into the Great Council chamber. Where the leaders of 17 species waited, she looked exactly like the humans in the Dominion's ancient records. Small, fragile, soft. The council members felt their confidence return. This creature did not look like a threat. Surely something could be arranged. Vreth Khan spoke first. You have made your point, he said, trying to sound reasonable. You have shown great strength, but surely there is no need for more violence. The crimes you speak of happened long ago. Everyone responsible is D. D. Let us discuss terms. Sierra Vance looked at him without expression. Terms, she repeated. Yes. Reparations, territory, whatever you want. We are willing to negotiate. Sierra was silent for a long moment. Then she reached into her coat and pulled out a small device. She placed it on the table, and a hologram appeared. Names. Billions of names, scrolling endlessly. The names of everyone who died on Earth. Do you know what this is? She asked. Vreth Khan did not answer. These are the dead, Sierra said. 12 billion souls. Mothers, fathers, children, artists, dreamers, farmers, teachers. 12 billion people who woke up one morning and did not know it would be their last day. She looked at each council member and said, your ancestors did not offer them terms. Your ancestors did not negotiate. Your ancestors burned them alive and called it housekeeping. She leaned forward. You want to know what we want? We do not want your territory. We do not want your resources. We do not want your surrender. We want you to understand what you created. We want every species in your dominion to know the truth about their masters. We want the galaxy to see who you really are. Vreth Khan's fear returned. What truth? What are you talking about? Sierra smiled, but there was no warmth in it. You think Earth was special? You think we were the only ones? We have searched your archives. We know about the other cleansings. Species 1, Species 847, Species 2901. Hundreds of civilizations erased before they could threaten your power. She stood up. The species you ruled do not know. They believe the Dominion protects them. They do not know their masters are murderers of worlds. We are going to tell them. Rethkon rose from his seat. You cannot. This will destroy the Dominion. Sierra Vance was already walking toward the door. She paused and looked back. Yes, she said. It will. That is the point. She left the chamber. Behind her, the council erupted in chaos. They screamed orders. They demanded action. They threatened war. But it was already too late. Across the Dominion, on every world, on every station, the human broadcasts had begun. The truth was spreading, and nothing in the universe could stop it. Humanity had not come to conquer the Dominion. They had come to expose it, and that was far worse. The Dominion had won 1,000 wars through simple force. Their enemies had always fought the same way. Fleet against fleet. Army against army. The strongest one? Humanity did not fight that way. The human broadcasts spread through Dominion space like fire through dry grass. Every world received them. Every species learned what the Dominion had hidden for millennia. The cleansing protocols. The murdered civilizations. The lies their masters had told for 100,000 years. The reaction was not immediate. At first, subject species did not believe it. It had to be enemy propaganda. The Dominion would never do such things. They were protectors, not killers. But humanity had proof. They had found the Dominion's own records. Data cubes stolen from military archives, video recordings of cleansings, official documents signed by high counselors, ordering the extinction of species whose only crime was growing too fast, thinking too freely, dreaming too big. When the subject species saw their masters celebrating genocide, something broke. The first rebellion started on a world called Kethvala, home to an insectoid species called the Keth. They had served the Dominion faithfully for 60,000 years. They had believed the Dominion protected them from dangerous aliens. They had been wrong. Keth workers stopped working. Keth soldiers refused orders. When Dominion officials tried to restore control, they were overwhelmed by sheer numbers. Billions of Keth, rising up in silent fury, Kethvala declared independence before sunset. Within 1 week, 40 worlds had followed. The Dominion tried to respond. They sent fleets to crush the rebellions. But every time they gathered their ships in one place, humanity struck somewhere else. Human vessels appeared from nowhere, destroyed military installations, and vanished before reinforcements arrived. It was like fighting smoke. High Counselor Vrethkon screamed at his generals, "Find them. Destroy them." They cannot keep appearing from nothing, but they could. Human fold space technology allowed them to travel anywhere in the galaxy instantly. They struck and disappeared. Struck and disappeared. The Dominion could not predict them, could not track them, could not stop them. And still the rebellion spread. The Koroth, a warrior species who had served as the Dominion soldiers for ages, learned that their ancestors had been conquered through a false flag attack. The Dominion had destroyed a Korath colony and blamed it on another species, then offered protection to the survivors. 40,000 years of loyal service. Built on a lie, the Koroth fleets turned on their masters, the Voluni delicate beings of light and song, discovered that their homeworld had once been shared with another species. A species the Dominion had erased completely, removing all records, all memory, all trace that they had ever existed. The Voluni had thought they were alone. They had never known their world was a graveyard. The Voluni stopped transmitting the Dominion's communications. The Empire's information network began to collapse. One by one, species turned against their rulers. Some fought openly. Some simply stopped cooperating. The Dominion, which had stood for 100,000 years, began to crack like ice in spring. Through it all, humanity kept broadcasting, not propaganda, not lies, just truth. Records from the Dominion's own archives, showing what they had done, what they had hidden, what they truly were. Humanity became the voice of every murdered civilization, speaking from beyond the grave, and with every broadcast, more species listened. More eyes opened. More hearts turned against the masters who had lied to them for so long. Sierra Vance directed the campaign from her flagship, the Remembrance. She did not sleep. She barely ate. She watched reports come in from across the galaxy, tracking rebellions, monitoring Dominion movements, coordinating strikes. Her second in command, a man named Thomas Chen, whose ancestors had escaped on the New Horizon, found her staring at a star map one night. "You should rest," he said. "We are winning." Sierra shook her head. "We are not here to win. We are here to remember." She pointed at the map. "Every light on this display is a world. Billions of people on each one. Most of them had nothing to do with what happened to Earth. They were born into the Dominion. They believed what they were told. They are not our enemies. Then who is?" Sierra's eyes went cold. "The ones at the top. The ones who made the decisions. The ones who built an empire on genocide and called it civilization. What do we do with them?" Sierra did not answer for a long moment. "We show them what they created," she finally said. "We make them watch their empire burn. We let them live long enough to understand that everything they built was rotten and it fell apart because of their own sins. And then," Sierra turned away from the map, "and then we let the galaxy decide what to do with them. We are not judges. We are not executioners. We are witnesses. We came to tell the truth. What happens after is not up to us." The war, if it could be called that, lasted 18 months. By the end, the Dominion had lost 3/4 of its territory. 7 of the 17 ruling species had surrendered. The rest were fighting each other as much as they were fighting humanity, the great empire that had burned Earth and murdered hundreds of civilizations was tearing itself apart. Vrethkon fled his capital when rebels stormed the gates. He tried to reach a hidden bunker where the Verithan leadership had stored emergency ships. He never made it. A group of Koreth soldiers found him hiding in a transport vessel. They did not kill him. They brought him to Sierra Vance instead. She met him in a ruined chamber of his own palace. The great hall where he had once ruled was now filled with rubble and ash. Statues of Verithan conquerors lay shattered on the floor. Vrethkon was bound but unharmed. He looked at Sierra with hatred and fear in equal measure. "Just kill me," he snarled. "End this." Sierra sat down across from him. She reached into her coat and pulled out the same container she always carried. Earth soil. The last of it. "No," she said quietly. "That would be too easy. Too quick. Your ancestors burned 12 billion people in 11 hours. They did not give them time to understand what was happening. They just erased them." She opened the container and let a pinch of soil fall through her fingers. "You will live, Vrethkon. You will live a long time. You will watch the Dominion collapse. You will see the species you enslaved build new lives without you. You will know that everything your people created for 100,000 years has been destroyed. And you will remember. Every day for the rest of your life, you will remember that this happened because of what your ancestors did to Earth. That is your punishment. Not death. Memory." She stood and walked away, leaving him alone in the ruins of his empire. Behind her, Vrethkon began to weep, but Sierra did not look back. She had one more thing to do. It was time to go home. 1 year after the fall of the Dominion, humanity went home. The Sol system was quiet. It had been quiet for 47,000 years. No ships visited. No probes scanned. The Dominion had marked it as a dead zone, a place of no value. Everyone had stayed away. Now millions of human vessels gathered at the edge of the system, where their ancestors had fled in terror and despair. They came from 17 hidden galaxies. They carried 50 trillion people, descendants of the original 2 million survivors. They had waited longer than civilizations usually lasted. The waiting was over. Sierra Vance stood on the bridge of the Remembrance as the fleet moved inward, past frozen Pluto, past the gas giants, past the asteroid belt. She had seen images of the Sol system in the archives. She knew what to expect, but knowing and seeing were different things. Where Earth had been, there was nothing but rubble. A ring of broken stone and metal orbited the sun, stretching for millions of kilometers. Pieces of mountains floated next to fragments of ocean floor. Melted glass sparkled in the starlight. The planet that had given birth to humanity was gone. The fleet stopped at the edge of the debris field. No one spoke. 50 trillion humans, connected through neural networks across the entire fleet, shared a moment of absolute silence. Some wept. Some prayed. Some simply stared at the remains of the world their ancestors had told them. About for 47,000 years, Sira felt tears on her cheeks, but she did not wipe them away. She let them fall. The dead deserved her tears. A small shuttle left the remembrance and flew into the debris field. Sira was aboard, along with representatives from each of the original 17 ship lineages. They carried small containers, each one holding a treasure preserved across the millennia: seeds, genetic, samples, soil, water, pieces of Earth that the survivors had grabbed in those final, desperate hours. Shuttle stopped at the center of the debris field, where Earth's core had once been. Sira opened her container and let the last of her family's Earth soil drift into space. "We came home," she said softly. "Just like we promised." One by one, the other representatives released their own sacred relics. Seeds and soil and water mixed together in the void, floating among the fragments of a murdered world. "We release you to the stars," Sira continued, "but we do not abandon you. We will rebuild what was taken. We will restore what was lost. Earth will live again." She looked out at the debris field, at the shattered bones of her species' birthplace. "It will take time. Centuries, maybe millennia. But time has never frightened us. We spent 47,000 years in darkness, and we never gave up. We will not give up now." The shuttle returned to the fleet. And then, slowly, the work began. Human technology had grown beyond anything the Dominion could understand. What would have taken other civilizations millions of years, humanity could accomplish in generations. They began gathering the scattered fragments of Earth, sorting them, analyzing them, cataloging them. Ships moved through the debris field like careful surgeons, collecting every piece of the lost world. Giant forges melted the fragments down. Molecular assemblers began rebuilding the planet atom by atom, molecule by molecule. It was the largest construction project in the history of the galaxy, and humanity approached it not as engineers, but as artists restoring a masterpiece. While the work continued, visitors came. Species from across the galaxy traveled to the Sol system to see the humans in their strange project. The Keth sent ambassadors to thank humanity for exposing the Dominion's lies. The Korith sent warriors who knelt before Saravance and swore eternal alliance. Even species who had been enemies of humanity during the war came. Curious to understand the people who had shattered an empire without conquering anything, they all asked the same question: "How did you survive? How did you endure so long in the dark?" Sira answered them the same way every time. "We told stories. We remembered names. We taught our children that they came from somewhere beautiful and that someday we would see it again." She would gesture at the growing sphere of reconstructed Earth, slowly taking shape in the void. The Dominion thought extinction meant destroying bodies. They did not understand that humanity does not live in flesh alone. We live in memory. In the stubborn refusal to be forgotten, they burned our world. So we became a species that could rebuild worlds. They wanted us erased from history. So we became a species that history would never forget. The visitors did not always understand, but they remembered her words. Years passed, decades, centuries. Earth grew larger. Oceans formed from reconstructed water. Continents rose from reassembled stone. An atmosphere thickened around the planet, turning the sky from black to blue. And finally, after 347 years of work, Earth was ready for life again. The first humans to walk on the new Earth were children. This was deliberate. Sira Vance, now ancient even by human standards, had insisted. Earth was murdered, she said. It should be reborn through children. A group of 300 young humans, born in space, descended to the surface in small shuttles. They landed on a plain that had once been called Africa, the birthplace of their species. The grass was new, grown from genetic samples. The trees were young, planted from preserved seeds. The air smelled of soil and flowers. The children ran through the grass, laughing. They splashed in streams. They climbed trees. They did all the things children had done on Earth for millions of years, in a world their ancestors could only dream about. Watching from orbit, humanity wept. Not with grief this time. With joy, Sierra Vance did not descend to the surface. She was too old, too tired, too connected to the darkness to walk in sunlight. But she watched through the neural network, seeing through the children's eyes, feeling the grass beneath their feet. "We did it," she whispered. "Alina, everyone, we kept our promise. We came home." A week later, a ceremony was held at the place where Tokyo had once stood. A single tree was planted, grown from a cherry blossom seed that had been preserved on the original New Horizon. It was small and fragile, barely taller than a child. Sierra was there for this, carried down in a medical pod. She reached out with one trembling hand and touched the tree's bark. "This is for everyone who burned," she said. "This is for the 12 billion who never got to see another spring. This tree will grow. It will bloom. It will drop seeds that become other trees. And in 1,000 years, there will be forests again." She smiled, and for the first time in her long life, the smile reached her eyes. "They made us refugees. We made ourselves eternal." Around her, humans gathered. They came from every ship lineage, every hidden colony, every corner of the vast civilization they had built in the darkness. They stood together on the soil of Earth, under a blue sky, feeling the sun on their faces 40-7,000 years ago. They had fled this place with nothing but grief and rage. Now they had returned with everything. Sierra Vance died 3 months later, surrounded by family at peace. Her ashes were scattered beneath the cherry tree she had planted. In time, the tree grew tall and beautiful, its blossoms falling like pink snow each spring and every year. On the anniversary of the burning, humans gathered beneath its branches to remember, not just the dead, not just the dark years, but the promise they had kept. They had survived. They had returned. They had come home, and humanity would never be forgotten again.